across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. I hope you had a nice weekend, because now it is over. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 compelling hours of breaking news, challenging views and topical debate. Get on the phone, get on the show and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, September the 15th. Here's what's coming up. The sinking ship of Starmer's chaotic government is turning into an all-out Uber wreck after yet another senior Labour figure was forced to resign in disgrace. Downing Street Director of Strategy Paul Ovenden had no option but to walk the plank over disgusting sexual emails he sent about Diane Abbott. Isn't that special? The latest disaster unfolded this afternoon as the beleaguered Prime Minister was still desperately trying to deal with the fallout from the Peter Mandelson catastrophe after the Bloomberg Financial Network revealed that it sent a 2,000-word message to Downing Street last Tuesday outlining the toe-curling emails that Mandy exchanged with his billionaire best pal Jeffrey Epstein following his paedophile conviction for soliciting a minor. It is regarded as inconceivable that Starmer did not know of this before he assured the Commons the following day that Britain's decidedly dodgy ambassador to Washington had his full confidence. Nevertheless, that is what habitual liar Keir expects us to believe. Do you believe him? 03444 99 1000. Either way, his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, definitely knew. So what the hell was the PM playing at last Wednesday when he backed Mandelson to the hilt? 03444 99 1000. And just how angry will Donald Trump be when his state visit starting tomorrow descends into 2 solid days of media interrogation about Epstein's 50th birthday book? The president says his greeting, written within the sketched outline of a naked woman, is a fake. But that won't stop the press bombarding him with questions about his friendship with Epstein and the dramatic exit of Britain's shamed ambassador to Washington. Even Labour MPs have joined in the fury as millions of shocked Brits watch this clown show administration fall apart at the seams as Calamity Keir staggers from horrendous mistake to humiliating U-turn to scandal after scandal. How can the country go on like this? 0344499 1000. In other news, in response to Saturday's massive Unite the Kingdom march that filled the streets of central London with Union Jacks and St George's crosses, our dear leader, Starmer, says he won't surrender the British flag to violence. What violence? Official figures put the crowd at between 110 and 150,000. Many believe there were considerably more protesters voicing their anger over a socialist government that thinks they're all far-right thugs and simply won't listen to any of us. Despite the huge turnout, there were just 29 arrests, which adds up to precious little violence. Why is the PM pretending this was a violent demonstration? 0344499 1000. Also tonight, it's not only Labour that is unravelling. The Tories lie severely wounded and damaged tonight after the sensational defection of former Shadow Work and Pensions Minister Danny Krueger to Reform UK. As he crossed the House, Krueger declared that the Conservatives are, and I quote, over. Is he right? Is Kemi Badenoch's political death spiral terminal? 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, Keir's legendary one-in, one-out deal was due today to deport the first migrants back to France. Not sure if they actually got anyone into the air. So far, they haven't said. But the plan is to return around 40 a week to the war and torture-free country from whence they came. Given that since the deal became operational on August the 4th, more than 5,500 migrants have crossed the channel to the UK illegally. That's 5,500 in, none out. Is this weird swap of foreigners scheme any kind of deterrent at all? Doesn't look like it, does it? 0344 499 1000. Plus, after their Glastonbury debacle, anti-Semitic death to the IDF band Bob Vylan are at it again, telling an audience in Amsterdam, "Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. You piece of you can fill in the gaps." As a result, Bob's gig tonight in Tilburg has been cancelled. Raised on the mean streets of downtown Ipswich, Vylan singer Pascal Robinson Foster is a cartoon countercultural rebel for our times. In other words, he's a total joke who revels in self-harming his so-called career. 0344 499 1000. I'll get the Sun's former political editor Trevor Kavanagh's take on Krueger and the ongoing shambles surrounding the Mandelson affair. And at 9 p.m. we'll talk the royals as experts reveal that the famous tea for two meeting between Harry and the King last week was far from amiable. And incredibly, the Prince insists his spiteful little book Spare was in no way airing his dirty laundry in public. Really? Is he serious? This is the book in where he told us how he lost his cherry in a field behind a pub in the country. That's airing your dirty laundry, Harry. Right off the bat, plus everything else in that nasty little tome. But he says, no, nothing spiteful. This was not airing his dirty laundry in public. As I say, is he serious? What on earth, also, is Meghan doing, posting a birthday picture of her husband during his military days from almost 20 years ago? How odd is that? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday night together, and without further ado, let's go over to Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening, Kev. Oh my God, what a day it's been.
I know, it was a long monologue that I had to get all the stories in.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a lot of fun with just one of those stories. It's just been an extraordinary news day, from that defection this morning that I don't think anyone saw coming, right the way through to the latest in the rolling list of resignations from Downing Street. And I see that within the last hour or so, a couple of Labour backbenchers have broken ranks and are basically openly asking serious questions of the Downing Street operation. Now, they're both, look to me, I don't know either of them, but it looks to me like they're very much on the sort of hard left of the party. Is this the beginning of something coordinated against Keir Starmer, or is it just the beginning of a general breakdown in discipline, which is inevitable when you've lost all authority?
Well, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I haven't been a political reporter per se, but I've been alive in Britain for many a long year, too many years. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a government quite so shambolic. It is literally falling apart at the seams before our very eyes. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've been a political journalist for a very long time, and I think what it reminds me of actually is the kind of the last days of Boris Johnson, which was unbelievably dramatic. You remember, a bunch of ministers basically resigned en masse in order to force him out, and that was a properly extraordinary time. This is very different because we've got a government that has a huge majority and as a government isn't going anywhere. But you're left wondering what is going to be happening at the top of that government. It's being sort of hollowed out, if not quite literally, because, of course, there'll still be plenty of people there. The authority is going.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard Jackie Smith on the BBC earlier, the former Home Secretary. Another one of these Labour people who had to resign in disgrace. She was going, they were asking, what about Mandelson? And what about, the general malaise? And she said, what the Prime Minister is getting on with is announcing a nuclear deal and trade deals ahead of Donald Trump's state visit. Everything is fine. It's like, just shut up. We're not stupid. You know, we can see with our very eyes. We don't need this political claptrap. We need proper explanations for what's going on in number 10 Downing Street. Keir Starmer better work out a way how to get himself out of this with some kind of dignity fast. Otherwise, I think he is going down. Before we talk about the Mandelson affair, and we must, because it goes from bad to worse, let's talk about this sensational development this morning, as we just alluded to. Danny Krueger, former Work and Pensions Minister, Shadow Minister, very highly regarded, a thoughtful man, not a political fly-by-night, has a very, very safe seat in East Wiltshire, one of the safest Tory seats in the country. So him defecting from the Tories, what he's doing is he's putting his very safe, secure political future at risk. The guy could have earned a nice minister or a parliamentary salary until the day he retired. But no, he's gone. He's gone to reform. Let's have a listen to what he said.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I am not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
Yeah, we missed the start of that. What he said is the Conservative Party is over. But it was quite a dramatic statement, by the way. He also stressed that he had a lot of time for Kemi Badenoch, but just did not feel that the Tories were in a correct state in order to carry the opposition to the right, to the left. To the Labour, to the SNP, to the Lib Dems, to Green. He didn't feel the Tories are the party to do that anymore. Now, this is a guy. This is the very first sitting MP to cross the House, as it were. They've had defections before. Reform UK, some very significant defections, but this one takes the biscuit. This is very significant. I heard Andrew Neil on Talk earlier saying you cannot underestimate the significance of a heavyweight figure like Danny Krueger, a thoughtful man, saying it is time now to go to reform. It really is pretty seismic.
It's really historic stuff. And, some of our listeners might be thinking, well, why is this such a big deal? I've never heard of this guy. He's not a household name. His mother is, Prue Leith.
Prue Leith, Bake Off star, yes.
He got most of his sort of profile actually came during the most intense period of the debate on right to die. And he has very strong views on that. I think they're very driven by Christianity. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because up till now, it's been possible for the Tory party to kind of explain away some of those that have defected as either desperados or jokers or clowns or attention seekers. And Danny Krueger just can't be dismissed in that way. The uncharitable could say, well, Nadine Dorries, her political career was over. She's looking for a peerage. She loves a bit of publicity. That's what the uncharitable would say about Nadine Dorries' defection, a big moment as well. Jake Berry, very much a friend of Talk, but again, not a household name, not respectfully, I would say, not somebody that is taken as a hugely authoritative, powerful figure within the Tory party, albeit someone that was a good get for reform. Danny Krueger is different, qualitatively different. He is an immensely thoughtful politician who is very, very well liked. And, the shock that was reverberating through the Tory party today, the number of messages that I had from people going, my God, I can't believe it. Maybe it really is over for us. And I think the penny is dropping. And this is part of very much part of a very calculated strategy by Nigel Farage, which is all about killing off the Tories. That is how brutal this is. That is the mission from the reform leadership at this point. Of course, they're also going to take the fight to Labour, and that's going to be the greatest thing in the run-up to the election. But in order to be battle ready for that, they feel they have to kill off the Tories first. And I would be surprised, and I've got no inside knowledge on this at all. You know, Nigel Farage keeps this stuff immensely secret, and you know, very wisely so. But I would be surprised if there might not be another defection on the eve of the Conservative Party conference. It did occur to me.
I'll bet you. Yeah, I'll bet you.
It did occur to me that if you've got a big name like Danny Krueger, why wouldn't you unleash it just before the Tory conference? Well, the answer to that might be that he said, you know what, I don't want to be used in that way. You know, I'm not going to actually really rain on Kemi Badenoch's parade in that manner. But it also might be because you've got another one up your sleeve.
Right, we're going to get through these other two scandals very, very quickly. But before we get to Mandelson, a quick word, if you will, Isabel, on something that you and I discussed this afternoon that just happened suddenly, out of nowhere. Paul Ovenden, former Fleet Street journalist, now very, very senior position in Downing Street, Director of Strategy. I mean, this is one of the real bigwigs in Downing Street. It's the job that Morgan McSweeney had before he ascended to become Chief of Staff. So that's the top job. Pretty much the second job under that is Director of Strategy. Incredibly important. Today, suddenly, out of nowhere, it's announced he's had to resign because they have found emails that he sent, disgusting emails, making sexual aspersions about poor old Diane Abbott. They date back to 2017, but a vile email is a vile email, and the man has had to go. Now, given Angela Rayner, Peter Mandelson last week, and now Paul Ovenden, I mean, this government, as I say, it is unravelling. In normal circumstances, Paul Ovenden, Director of Strategy, going for disgusting emails about Diane Abbott would be a massive story. But it's being overshadowed by all the other massive stories.
And I don't think the timing, therefore, of that story coming out is in any way accidental. Yeah. And there's serious questions being asked again as to who knew what and when. It's all beginning to sound a bit familiar, isn't it? We're getting muddled up now between who knew what and when about which scandal. You know, what a shame there's no Prime Minister's questions this week, because the opposition would have an absolute field day having to choose which scandal to go for. There are conspiracy theorists who wonder whether that has been put out there in order to distract from the Mandelson thing. But I don't think as a strategy that really works. You know, it's one hell of a dead cat to chuck that out into the middle of things. All it's done is contributed to a sense of total disarray and implosion at the heart of this government. So I don't know. Where does this go? I mean, this morning, I think people were thinking Keir Starmer will hang on until May, when inevitably there will be a bloodbath of election results, particularly in Wales. Now I'm thinking, is he going to hang on till the end of this week at this rate?
Jeremy Kyle just asked me, how long do you think that Keir Starmer will last? I said, till about tomorrow. I mean, it really is looking bad for him. We've overrun. We better go to break now, and we'll try and squeeze everything else in. But when we come back, let's first of all talk about Mandelson, because as I said earlier, that goes from bad to worse. It's an absolutely remarkable, incredible situation. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks.
it's difficult. London's challenges are difficult sometimes, but that is the job of mayor. He's got to grapple with these difficult challenges. He's got to grapple with the unions that are bringing our city to a halt. But he just wants to get the, indulgence and the praise that he gets from this international class. Those people don't seem to be asking him the same difficult questions as perhaps he gets asked whether he's in City Hall or he's speaking to journalists here in the city.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, this was the Prime Minister Keir Starmer talking about Peter Mandelson, his ex-shamed ambassador to Washington earlier today.
Let me talk this through with you because it's important to appreciate what happened when, and I understand that. Obviously, the diplomatic post of American ambassador, really important post. And Peter Mandelson, before he was appointed, went through a due diligence process. That's the propriety and ethics team went through a process. And therefore, I knew of his association with Epstein. But had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Well, look, let's look at this, Isabel. What we do know, it is thought that it's almost certain that Downing Street or the Foreign Office or MI6, who were responsible for vetting Peter Mandelson before he was appointed as our man in America, our man in Washington, as Starmer, of course, calls it, due process, procedure. He loves all that, doesn't he? Well, his due process and his procedure are clearly in the toilet, but it's almost certain that Downing Street at least knew last week, if not earlier. But what we do know 100% is that last Tuesday, the Bloomberg Financial Network, television network, sent to Downing Street a 2,000-word email outlining exactly what happened in these email exchanges between Mandelson and Epstein after Epstein was convicted of a paedophile offence, soliciting a minor. It's toe-curling stuff. I'm saying, oh, we still love you, Jeffrey. Oh, you've got to appeal. Go for a shorter sentence, you poor thing. Those emails are what did for Mandelson. So it's very important that we know whether or not the Prime Minister knew about that when he went into the House of Commons on Wednesday, 24 hours after the Bloomberg memo, the 2,000-word question turned up. Did the Prime Minister know about it? And if he did know about it, did he go into the Commons and lie? The only alternative is Morgan McSweeney, his Chief of Staff, and the Prime Minister's senior aides will have known about it. We know they knew about it on Tuesday. Is it the case then that they just didn't tell Starmer, and so Starmer went into the House of Commons on Wednesday, Prime Minister's question time, and unwittingly lied to the House? Either of those scenarios is an utter disgrace.
Well, yes, I mean, it's called inadvertently misleading the House, and then you have to correct the record, which does happen occasionally and is very embarrassing. Now, the reason I keep looking down at my phone is because there's so much breaking news.
Someone else resigned.
I'm sure people will be thrilled to know that Keir Starmer really does get the public mood at the moment, because what he's tweeting is not about any of this. He's saying, my government is delivering energy security.
Shut up, you fool. What on earth is he doing?
Don't you get it? You know, now is not the time to be tweeting about how your government's bringing in energy security. Bluntly, the UK has the highest electricity costs in the world. You can't get past that. And as for the Mandelson thing, I mean, I really can't get past the fact that he knew that Peter Mandelson had a close association with Jeffrey Epstein at all. I mean, we know this story about Epstein has gone on years and years and years, and anyone who is associated with Epstein is very, very, very badly damaged. And how he thought that somehow or other this guy could have such a position as the UK's ambassador to Washington, despite a close association to Epstein, and that this was not going to blow up at some point, beggars belief. You know, you would have thought you would have interrogated that link to the nth degree. And unless Mandelson lied about the link, then they must have known that this was absolutely toxic and dynamite. And what the hell were they thinking?
There are two disgusting things about Mandelson's position. Mandelson, you know, I'm not challenging his intellect or his political nous. He's a good operator behind the scenes. We all know that, Prince of Darkness and all that. But he is an idiot. He is a fool. He makes shocking mistakes. His judgment is in the toilet. Twice fired by Tony Blair for scandals. He does it again. It is extraordinary. But you want to know what the worst thing about his contention, that he was wrongly fired? He's furious that he got fired. He feels he could have survived this. No, Mandy, you couldn't have done. But this is what's so bad about it. His contention is, well, Jeffrey Epstein isn't a proper paedophile. He just laid on young girls for fun parties for important men. What is it with Labour? You think about their attitude to the grooming gang scandal, the rape gang scandal. They didn't want an inquiry, said it wasn't necessary, in the end got embarrassed into calling one, although we hear nothing about it now. When is that starting? Who's going to chair it? Etc, etc. We don't know anything about that yet, so they better get their skates on. But if you add that to Peter Mandelson thinking, well, he wasn't a real paedophile, these girls were like 15, 14, it's not the same. It's not the same. Well, what they were, these girls, whether they were underage or not, is they were ruthlessly and cruelly exploited by powerful men. And the fact that Mandelson can't see the heinous wickedness of that sums up the man, if you ask me.
Well, what's his cut-off point? What's his threshold? You know, if a 14 or a 15-year-old girl is fair game, that, I mean, to me, that is just completely and utterly unacceptable. I mean, my own daughter is 14 and a half. The idea of grown men preying on a 14 and a half, 15-year-old is absolutely skin-crawling. And as you say, it's about judgment, this, isn't it? And time and again, these scandals, the series of scandals that is engulfing Downing Street, comes back to a total lack of political judgment on the part of Keir Starmer. Yeah. And he exhibits it every day. He is incapable of reading the room, or in this case, reading the country, and somehow just seems to lurch onwards with a kind of robotic deafness to everything that's going on around him, imagining that if he puts out, you know, periodic tweets about how his government is changing energy policy or deporting one person for every however many come in, you know, he thinks that somehow or other we're all going to be distracted by that from the absolute horror show that's unfolding before our eyes.
Yeah, and Mandelson thought he could survive. It just proves how entitled and how foolish he is. He just does, after all these years, great political operator, doesn't seem to quite understand politics. You're best mates with a paedophile after they get convicted of paedophile offences. Your political career is well and truly over. But we hear that Mandelson is absolutely seething about the fact, because he refused to resign, so Starmer sacked him, and Mandelson has vowed awful revenge on Starmer. That could bode badly for Mr. Keir, couldn't it?
Well, I think if that is genuinely what Peter Mandelson is out for, then that will probably be curtains for Keir Starmer. You know, I have no doubt that Mandelson has in his back pocket many extremely damaging, intimate details of what Starmer has done wrong here, there, and everywhere. I don't mean anything criminal. I just mean there will be so much embarrassing stuff, you know, that just honestly, it'll be delicious, frankly.
Yeah, it will be. Once Mandelson gets going, Starmer may well be in his own death spiral. Now, just quickly before we go to break, they sent out the new business secretary, Peter Kyle, yesterday, a real old Uriah Heep, you know, who's so far up Starmer's backside you can only see the bottom of his shoes, you know. Anyway, so he goes out yesterday and he said, well, yes, it didn't work out with Peter Mandelson, but appointing him to this job, ambassador to Britain, the most important diplomatic role in this country, was, and I quote, worth the risk. Is he serious? This is not a serious government. If you're appointing people who are not fit to do a job because it's worth the risk, I mean, what on earth are they playing at?
I don't know, because it's not as if there aren't many brilliant and decent and accomplished people who could have had the job. You know, I mean, if the answer is Peter Mandelson, I'm not sure.
What was the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you find the worst qualified person to be our ambassador to Washington? Yes, I can. Peter Mandelson. Oh, great. Yeah. I'll bet you our next ambassador to Washington will be Angela Rayner. I mean, it's a joke. We better go to break, Isabel, and we'll try and squeeze in a couple of stories when we come back, including Bob Villan's latest horror. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Let's try and speed through these two stories, Isabel. Well, first up, let's talk about the Unite the Kingdom march in central London on Saturday, which was pretty massive. The official police estimates are between 110,000 and 150,000. Many who were there think it was far more than that. Certainly, I knew people there who were saying, look, 3 million. It wasn't 3 million. It wasn't a million. But I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't significantly over 200,000. Now, I was in London for different reasons on Saturday. I'm very politically committed. I was going to see Fulham play Leeds. But I did go through all the crowds and I saw them all on the tube. And let me tell you, it was a carnival atmosphere, a party atmosphere, real kind of feeling of fun on the streets, but of course an angry protest too. The Prime Minister characterised this afterwards by saying that he would not surrender, because of course the streets of London were just filled with Union Jacks and St George's crosses. And Starmer's reaction to this, he's finally learnt that stop just dismissing millions of British citizens as far-right thugs. He's at least abandoned that insult. But what he said in response to this sea of flags was, "I will not surrender the British flag to violence." What violence? Let's agree on, shall we say, 200,000. Massive crowds. You could see that. There were 29 arrests.
That's nothing.
Yeah, it was not violent. You know, look, you get that many people, you get a load of coppers, there's going to be a few flashpoints. But that was not violence.
So, to put it in perspective, there were over 200 arrests at the Notting Hill Carnival, and I wasn't at that march on over the weekend. Reform was very wary of that march because of the way the details of who organised it. And, you know, nobody in Reform wants to be associated with any real far-right thuggery. But there was none. And I must admit, I was actually quite moved by that, the footage, by the amazing sea of flags, as you say. It looked incredible. And it was a hell of a show of feeling, wasn't it?
Yes,
and
it was.
Saw plenty of footage of police officers looking pretty bored because they had nothing much to do. People by and large behaved very well indeed. And, you know, I don't think there would ever have been a protest on this scale where there's been no arrests. I mean, there might have been, not aware of it. I don't know
29 is nothing. Now, listen, in terms of the way that the left wanted to portray this demonstration, by the way, shall we say there were 200,000 Unite the Kingdom demonstrators, protesters out there. The Stand Up to Racism mob, they staged their counter demonstration, 15,000. So that was pretty feeble by comparison. But the left still want to say that out on the streets, and let's say, you know, Tommy Robinson is the guy that took a big part in organising this demonstration on Saturday. Now, whatever you think of Tommy Robinson, what I would say, having seen this demonstration, both on the television and in reality, I was sort of there, to say that those 200,000 people were all Tommy Robinson's people is just not true. It was a coming together of hundreds of thousands of people from all walks of life, all political walks of life, who just wanted to say this government is a disaster and it doesn't listen to us. So it was not a Tommy Robinson event. I'm not saying he wasn't integrally involved, but it was a cry of protest, a cry of despair, I think, by hundreds of thousands of disaffected British citizens. And Keir Starmer should take it more seriously than coming out with one of his classic cliche denouncements. Oh, I will not surrender the British flag to violence. There wasn't any violence.
And I think to try to put this in the kind of terminology that those on the left have sought to do, whether it's to say, oh, it's Tommy Robinson supporters, or oh, it's far right, or oh, it's violent, you know, is to totally misread what is going on in our country.
Yes.
And what is going on is so seismic, actually. You know, there's much of me that just can't believe what's happening. You know, we are seeing an uprising of people who don't really want to be involved in politics. They're not political. They've never wanted to take to the streets waving flags. It's not who they are or what they see for themselves. But what they are is profoundly worried about the state of our country. They're struggling in many cases to make ends meet, and they are looking absolutely aghast as outsiders are literally prioritised over those who've grown up in the UK and paid their way and all of that. And they need some outlet for that. And they find themselves drawn to coming on this kind of march, because what else are they supposed to do? I mean, they're not the type of people generally who are going to content themselves to write a letter to the editor of the Times.
Yeah, what we saw on Saturday, as I say, I did see it personally, was a coming together of many different factions who, if you like, were protesting against Starmer, protesting against this government that doesn't listen to them from different angles. So you've got the Tommy Robinson form of protest. You have other forms of protest. It was a convergence of all sorts of people, many of whom have never been to a demonstration before in their lives, to say this government is badly letting us down and they won't listen to us. That's what I think I should get across. That's how to characterise this protest.
Also, you have to think that it's actually quite a brave thing in the current climate to join any kind of march like that. I mean, it's not something to take lightly, because you, as a law-abiding citizen who's not normally involved in anything political, can't be sure how it's going to play out and whether you might not get caught up in something that you yourself had nothing to do with, whether you're going to be characterised by political leaders or indeed your neighbours as some kind of bad person with bad views, with, horrible intention. So I think for people to have made that journey down to London, and it wasn't convenient, it wasn't easy. I've heard so much about how clogged up the roads were and the transport system. Luckily it looked like it was decent weather and people had a really nice time. But it's a really big effort to come out onto the streets of London and do something like this. And generally it looked pretty cheery, actually.
It was. The party atmosphere was palpable. As I say, I was in and around it, not a part of it. And can I just say before we go to break, I think to look at those streets full of those flags, the Union Jack and the St George's Cross, flying happily in the sunshine, with people having a good time, party atmosphere, I think that was a moment to be proud of this country. I'm sorry that Keir Starmer doesn't share our sentiments. Listen, when we come back, I keep saying this, we're going to squeeze in two stories. Bob Villan and the one in, one out scheme. That next, stay tuned.
let me say this about Danny Krueger. Danny Krueger has not joined the Conservative, the Reform Party because he wants to win his seat at the next election. His seat was one of the safest, and he is one of the most thoughtful and least, much to my frustration working for him for a very long time, one of the least political with a small p people in politics. He has done this because he is concerned about the direction of our country. He's concerned that we have one moment to save the country, and that is at the next general election.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, you've got to get your fast talking app going right now, because we're going to talk now. First of all, I forgot to play this. I'm going to play it. I shouldn't really, but I'm going to play it because it annoyed me. Hot foot from comparing Reform UK to the Nazis at the TUC conference last week. That old dinosaur, John McDonnell, former Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Corbynite. This is what he said about the demonstration on Saturday.
Society. Unfortunately, the right captured that mood in the campaign around Brexit, and now the far right have captured the concerns that people have about their living standards, and they're focusing, as always they do, on a minority, and it's a racist campaign. So there needs to be a fundamental rethink now before we're driven further into the darkness. So I'm urging all progressive organisations, trade unions, political parties, civil society organisations and religious groups and progressive individuals.
Well, the bit I wanted to play wasn't in there. This was when he was talking about, he actually talked about people on the streets of London on Saturday being terrified because of all these far-right demonstrators. You know, as I say, I saw it. Nobody was terrified. It was a party.
What is he on about? I mean, this is so pathetic, isn't it? This is an elderly man who has yet still not progressed from the most basic student politics, even after everything that he's seen and observed that's happening to our country, and that turnout and everything that you and I have just been talking about the evidence before our very eyes. This muppet still can't move beyond saying that this is racism. And I'm afraid Diana, but whilst our sympathies may be with her this evening for other reasons,
she's just as bad.
But also claimed that this was a racist gathering. It just wasn't. And the longer and the more these people keep repeating that, the more they galvanise ordinary, law-abiding, not racist at all, folk to the cause.
Exactly right. As I say, he said that people on the streets of London were terrified on Saturday. That I saw they were not. No one was terrified. So he's actually lying. He's actually lying. It's a disgrace.
I tell you what terrifies me. It terrifies me that these heavyweight supposed political figures are so utterly detached from reality and from where voters are on all of this.
You're right. He's a 70-year-old sixth form student. He really is. 72, I think he is. Now, talking of disgraces, here's Bob Villan, you know, the Glastonbury death to the IDF anti-Semitic band. They've been on a tour of Holland. 2 nights ago, they played Amsterdam. And this is what Bob Villan said about poor, tragic Charlie Kirk, of course, assassinated last week in Utah.
The pronouns were. I want to dedicate this next one. To an absolute piece of of a human being.
Anyway, so he called Charlie Kirk a piece of, who essentially deserved to die. He said, if you talk, will happen to you. So that old sentiment. This, of course, after their anti-Semitic outburst at Glastonbury, plunged the BBC into loads of scandal, death to the IDF. Well, this guy is called, what's his name? Pascal Robinson Foster. He's from the mean downtown streets of Ipswich. And here he is saying that Charlie Kirk deserved to die. Well, the net result of this was, hilariously, that his concert tonight in Tilburg has been cancelled. So this guy, as I said in my monologue, he's a cartoon counterculture rebel for our times, isn't he? Just a total joke from Ipswich, who thinks that what he has to say is important, and also, of course, voicing the disgusting attitude of so many people on the left who think that because they didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, he deserved to die.
Yeah, I mean, it's genuinely horrible to listen to someone voicing those sentiments, and I'm afraid it does encapsulate a very small strand of what I'm going to call the far left, who
good word, yeah.
Don't seem to be able to understand that people with different political views to them are not evil. I don't get what is so difficult for them to grasp about this. The way they claim and they feel so entitled to some kind of moral high ground on the left. I find it genuinely bewildering. We on the right, if something happened to him, God forbid, that some harm came to Bob Villan, physical harm, on no shape or form or anywhere on this planet would I think, yay, that's a great thing. I would think what an utter horror had become of our politics, that people were being shot for different views. But someone on his side of things seems to think that it's a good thing. It's really.
I think all of these people, so many of them, Bob Villan included, or Pascal Robinson Foster. there's a revolutionary's name for you. I think they need psychiatric help. I really do. I don't care. What?
They're just so angry.
No one deserves to die for their political opinions. End of. Well, let's quickly finish, if we can, Isabel, on the one in, one out scheme. Now, as you remember, the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, tough talking. She'll get things done. No, she won't. She's the same as the rest of them. Won't leave the ECHR, won't turn the boats round, won't detain and deport, will carry on giving them 50 quid a week, carry on putting them in 4-star hotels, carry on giving them free health, free food, free lawyers, free dentists. She will stop at everything rather than solve this crisis. She said she'll stop at nothing. Yeah, right. Anyway, she promised us that the first deportation after Keir Starmer's legendary one in, one out scheme was imminent. We were told over the weekend it would be today. By the way, this scheme came into operation on August the 4th. Since then, more than 5,500 have crossed the Channel illegally to Britain. So it's more than 5,500 in, none out so far. The first one in, one out people were supposed to go today. Apparently, Air France planes were waiting to fly them back to France. Not known, by the way, it's not renowned for war and torture, which they're supposed to be escaping. But anyway, they're supposed to go back. No announcement. Doesn't look like anyone has gone back.
I can't wait to find out the story here. I mean, I assume that if this has been some form of operational triumph, then the Home Office and Downing Street would have treated us all to the pictures in an attempt to push some of the other bad stuff off the front pages. So the silence is definitely suspicious, I would say.
Silence is deafening.
But, it's going to take 2 years to deport the 5,000 that have come since this was announced, because I think you said it's 40 a week, right? And
that's the thing, that even if they do get this scheme going, bearing in mind that on average throughout the summer, between sort of 1,500 and 2,000 at least have been coming over every week, sometimes considerably more. The idea of sending 40 back a week to France is hardly kind of earthquake stuff, is it? That's not a deterrent. This is not a deterrent. But I think what has happened here, this is just me speculating, it may be tomorrow they'll turn around and say, here's the pictures, we got somebody back to Paris yesterday. But I suspect what has happened is they had a few lined up to go back, but in came the immigration lawyers, lodging last-minute objections, and guess what? They haven't gone.
That is my suspicion. I mean, I'm still a little bit, in any case, bewildered as to why do they have to be sent back by private jet or by plane anyway? Perhaps much larger numbers could simply be put on ferries or other seaworthy vessels. They quite like a bit of a trip across.
Take them back on a dinghy. Yeah, put them on a dinghy.
I mean, there's got to be cheaper ways of doing this. They came voluntarily over on a dinghy, so maybe go back on a dinghy.
Yeah, how do you like it going in this direction? How do you like it going northwards? See if they enjoy that trip.
The whole thing is just completely fatuous. 125 weeks at 40 deportees a week. That's how long it would take just to get rid of the ones that have come since the policy was announced. It's a joke. Try and explain this policy to anyone in any other country, and honestly, you'll just start laughing because it's just too ridiculous.
It is a joke, and when they first announced it, I made a big thing of it. So I'm going to put my reputation on the line and tell you that they will never get a single migrant back to France on the one-in, one-out deal. It was a lot to state. Luckily, I don't have much of a reputation, so if I'm wrong, I'll get away with it. Nothing much lost. But I do think they're going to struggle, and my hunch, my instinct, and I think you agree with me, is the fact they announced all weekend, yes, the first deportations under one-in, one-out will happen on Monday. No sign of it. I reckon the lawyers have got stuck in, and then no one has gone back to France. Typical of this government. Fantastic hour, very hectic. Thank you very much, Isabel. We'll talk tomorrow. Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor there. When we come back, talking of heavyweight political commentators, we've got the best up next. Trevor Kavanagh, the brilliant former political editor of The Sun, will get his take on the disaster going on right now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
welcome back. In about half an hour, I'll be taking your calls. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about, of course, the Peter Mandelson affair. We're talking about Danny Krueger, the very respected, thoughtful former Work and Pensions Minister, defecting from the Tories today to Reform UK, a serious Westminster earthquake, that seismic event. And, of course, let me know what you think about Saturday's march, the Unite the Kingdom demonstration, the protest. John McDonnell trying to say that people on the streets of London were terrified. Others trying to characterise this as a far-right protest because one of the organisers was Tommy Robinson. Robinson's followers were there, but a lot of other people were there as well. This was not far right. This was a coming together, a convergence, if you like, of loads of different factions, people from all over the country who just wanted to say, Starmer, you're wrecking this country. I've never seen such an expression of frustration with the government in this country before, and I've never seen such a mess of a government before. Let's talk to someone who's seen a few governments in his time, former political editor and commentator at The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Kevin.
Let me ask you this. I was saying to Isabel Oakeshott earlier, you know, I've never been a political reporter or anything like that, but, you know, I've been a citizen of this country for way too long. I've been alive for too long. I'm already defying science by still being alive. But seriously, I've never seen a government as shambolic, as chaotic as this. I've never seen a government failing on such a disastrous level as this. Now, you have been in Parliament or been in Westminster on the inside. I mean, what are your feelings on this government? Have you ever seen anything worse?
Well, I think you could be 200 years old and never seen anything worse, Kevin. This is truly astonishing. I mean, bearing in mind that we're only 14 months into the government of a Labour government which was elected on a landslide on July the 4th last year, and yet we've seen a catalogue of catastrophes. The sackings of senior ministers, cabinet ministers, 4 women ministers who had to step down, all for breaches of the protocols, or if not the rules of their own departments. Then we have the deputy Labour leader, and now our American ambassador, one of the highest ranking positions in the whole lexicon of government affairs. And Peter Mandelson was doomed, frankly, before he even took the job. I wasn't alone in pointing out that he had been a long-term close friend of Epstein, and that he had stayed at his home in New York while he was actually still in prison. I mean, this is surely good reason for the alarm bells to ring. And, you know, Starmer now professes that he didn't know and couldn't have known. And, of course, he's got no legal background, has he? He's only been the head of the Department of Public Prosecutions and a prominent human rights KC. Why didn't he ask the questions that should have sprung to the minds of any amateur, let alone a leading silk who earns $2,000 an hour when he's in court?
We need to talk about Danny Krueger and his sensational defection from the Tories to Reform UK today. But let's park that. We'll talk about that after the break. Let's stick with Mandelson here. I was just saying, right, here's the chronology. It's likely, in my view, that MI6 and the Foreign Office, who do these checks, probably knew all about Mandelson and his emails and his connection to Epstein after Epstein's conviction for a paedophile child sex offence in 2008. It's probable, but I guess they've got plausible deniability there. But where that runs out is last Tuesday, where the Bloomberg Financial Network sent a 2,000-word email to Downing Street, outlining all of these excruciating, toe-curling emails from Mandelson to Epstein. Epstein back to him. Oh, Jeffrey, we still love you. Jeffrey, push for a lighter sentence. Oh, Jeffrey, 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 and so on and so forth. Now, so Downing Street and Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, definitely knew all about these emails on Tuesday. There's no getting out of that. Now, what Starmer is expecting us to believe is that McSweeney and the team didn't mention any of this to the Prime Minister, to Keir Starmer, and indeed sent him into Prime Minister's Question Times on Wednesday, 12 midday, unaware of these emails that they knew all about. Now, to me, and I think to many British citizens, that is an implausible situation. I just don't believe that. And yet Starmer's come out today and said, well, I didn't know about the emails. I just didn't know. I mean, do you believe him?
Absolutely not. Nobody believes him. Look, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the First Lord of the Treasury, he is the man who knows everything that the Secret Service knows. And he only has to ask a question and they will provide an answer. And this is a man who is a seasoned lawyer in the highest courts of the land, a former DPP, as I say, who didn't ask the question. He didn't ask the question either, if you remember, when he was presented with a speech about immigration and quoted, without apparently understanding it or questioning it, a phrase by Enoch Powell, the absolute
Island of Strangers
of the right, about a society, a nation of strangers. I mean, this is a man who, and I have to say with enormous pride, that I have forecast that Starmer would not survive as Prime Minister long before he was even elected. This man is a total dud in almost every possible bone and muscle in his body when it comes to politics. He has not a clue. And he not just blows with the wind, he chooses winds that suit his purpose. The left, soft left, the human rights laws, the sort of fudge measures that the European Union makes a specialty of, he loves them all. And they all end up getting people in trouble. And they've all landed in Starmer's lap in the first 14 months of his premiership.
Yes, trouble with Starmer and his mate Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, is they believe that the ultimate ruling principle of Britain is the rule of law, the rule of international law. Well, they're wrong. What the ultimate principle of rule in Britain should be, it should lie in the hands of the democratically elected government, and they should be inferior, subordinate to no one. And yet those two spend all their time looking for international law, looking for local law in which to overturn the democratic process. They're in the wrong job, frankly. But let's go back to Mandelson. As I say, you know, I think most British citizens can work out that when Starmer says he went into PMQs, Prime Minister's Questions, last Wednesday and did not know about these emails, he is lying. So let's take it. Let's accept it that he damn well knew about them. So what on earth was he playing at, Trevor, standing there and assuring the House of Commons that this walking embarrassment, this man who has made scandal a hobby throughout his life, twice sacked by Tony Blair, and now again, what on earth was Starmer doing assuring the House that Mandy had his total confidence, his full confidence? What was he playing at?
Well, I've known Peter Mandelson for 40 years, and I can say from first-hand experience that he is a total corkscrew. He could not walk a straight line across an open football field without diverting down some side track to commit some scandal. And the scandals have been multiple. I'm very proud to have played a role in his sacking, the second sacking over the Hinduja
brothers, yeah.
And it was thanks to my questioning at Downing Street's 11 o'clock briefing that finally the lobby persuaded the Downing Street's Alistair Campbell at the time that this was not a tenable position. And by the second lobby briefing that afternoon, he was gone. So I'm very proud of that. But nobody should have to ask these questions because Mandelson is incorrigible. And as the Daily Mail has repeated this week, they exposed an absolutely outrageous attempt to deal with Oleg Deripaska, the very shady Russian oligarch and aluminium tycoon who somehow came from nowhere to billionaire status, to when he was trade commissioner at the EU, to change the rules so that Oleg Deripaska could sell or dump his aluminium products in the European Union, which had previously been forbidden.
Yeah.
Now, look, I don't know the details, but wonder what he got out of that personally.
And, of course, the Russian oligarchs sued the Daily Mail and lost the case. Peter Mandelson, the problem with Peter Mandelson is quite clearly, quite obviously, anyone with half a brain can see, the man throughout his checkered career has been bribable. Give him a billionaire who'll let him stay in his mansion in New York or his apartment in Miami or wherever, and will pay for free holidays for him in their private islands or wherever, or on their big private luxury yachts, and Peter Mandelson is in your pocket, which makes it all the more astonishing that Keir Starmer even considered bringing this guy back from the political dead for the third time. It was a catastrophic mistake, and let's talk about some of the implications. I mean, there are so many bad things about this. By the way, Mandelson is furious that he was sacked. He thought he could ride this out, which proves he's got no judgment whatsoever. He has no judgment. I'm not challenging his intellect or his ability to, work in murky ways behind the political scene. He's a good political operator. But as a man of judgment, as a political figure in the forefront, he's an utter fool. He's just made mistake after mistake after mistake. Literally 3 massive scandals now define his checkered career, as I say. So he thinks it was wrong to fire him. He's vowed revenge on Starmer. But what will it mean in the short term? As of tomorrow, we have the state visit of Donald Trump starting. Now, thanks to Starmer's incompetence, thanks to appointing a man like Mandelson to this, as you say, the most important job in British diplomacy, ambassador to Washington, and now he's had to go, this state visit will be 48 hours, 2 days of total embarrassment. Because you have to have lots of media calls, press conferences, media conferences, television conferences. Every single journalist will be going, what about Mandelson? The Epstein birthday book, he's in that. You're in that as well, aren't you, Donald? Donald will go, no, my entry is a fake. But this will be the narrative that defines this state visit. Trump's going to be furious.
I suspect, Helen, that in fact, the reason that they thought they could get away with appointing Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to Washington is because they thought that since Donald Trump was up to his neck in Epstein's maneuverings, that nobody would turn their attention to Peter Mandelson's clear maneuvers behind the scenes and the fact that he was actually living in Epstein's luxury pad while Epstein was in prison. So I think they thought that they could get away with it because of that. But as you say, what are the first, second and third questions going to be at the press conference when Donald Trump comes out after seeing the king? They're all going to be on Epstein and what was his role and why did he allow Mandelson to be appointed? It's going to be a mess, and it's going to be a very embarrassing mess, not just for the government, which is in a complete hole at the moment, but also for Trump, but indeed for the monarchy. The monarchy, King Charles is absolutely distraught by the way this has now turned into something on his royal patch, which is going to embarrass him, the monarchy, and the country.
It's extraordinary. And let's not forget that today Paul Ovenden, the Director of Strategy at Downing Street, Keir Starmer's Director of Strategy, an incredibly senior job, had to resign because he sent vile sexual emails about Diane Abbott. I mean, almost comically pathetic for a reason for a senior Downing Street official to have to leave. But he did. Now, obviously, Downing Street decided this was a good day to bury bad news. But the importance, the significance of Ovenden's defenestration should not be understated, should it?
No, and he won't be the last. I mean, there's going to be a flood of people out of Downing Street, and eventually at the top of the flood will be Keir Starmer. I mean, I've been predicting that he will go for some time, and I've been proved wrong. But I won't be proved wrong for long. He is going to go probably at some point between now and the party conference, the budget, and certainly after the May elections, in which Labour is going to come a terrible cropper. And I think you were talking about some other developments on the sidelines about reform. All of this conspires against the chances of Starmer and Labour itself surviving, not just in the near term, but in the next general election too.
Before we go to break, Trevor, what does this mean, the Mandelson affair, the Mandelson catastrophe? It's a shambles and a catastrophe. Now, we know, in fact, the word is that Keir Starmer didn't even particularly like, or doesn't particularly like, Peter Mandelson, but he was persuaded by the Blair factions, probably Tony Blair himself, to appoint him to this important role in Washington so that Blair could keep his tentacles of power going. And of course, Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff at Downing Street, is essentially a Blairite at heart and is very close to Mandelson. The word is that when Keir Starmer says, oh, I'm not sure about Mandelson, you know, keeps getting fired, bit of a dodgy character, that Morgan McSweeney said, no, you've got to put him in, he'll be brilliant. So Morgan McSweeney got him into that job. Now, we heard a story yesterday, Mail on Sunday, front page, I think, that after Mandelson had to be fired, Starmer and Morgan McSweeney allegedly had a stand-up row in which Starmer screamed at him, you're supposed to protect me from things like this. And Morgan McSweeney apparently said, I'm trying to protect you. The word being, maybe Morgan McSweeney may not be long for this world. Do you think he'll get fired?
Yes, absolutely. I think, as I say, heads are going to keep rolling. And the problem for Keir Starmer is not a question of whether he ever liked or rated Peter Mandelson. It's whether Peter Mandelson ever liked or rated Keir Starmer. And I can tell you that he didn't and hasn't from the outset. He didn't like the way Keir Starmer operated in opposition as opposition leader. He didn't like the way that Starmer prepared for the election with a manifesto which was packed with either direct lies
yeah,
or misleading information or no information at all on things that they planned to do but denied that they were. All of these things Peter Mandelson expressed his alarm about in private and eventually in public. So he has an axe to grind. And as I said earlier, Peter Mandelson, for all his flaws and failings, is a very sharp political operator. He knows where the bodies are buried, and he's going to exhume those at Starmer's expense over the coming weeks and months. His fingerprints being directly on them, but you will know.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I think it'll be a case of revenge is a dish best served hot. He won't waste any time. And if you get on the side of Peter Mandelson, as I say, I think he's a very flawed man. I think he's a fool. I think he's an idiot. But he's a clever guy, and he's a hell of a political operator. And if you get on the wrong side of him, you are in trouble. Ergo, Keir Starmer is in deep, deep trouble. Mandelson will stab him in the front if he can, but he'll certainly stab him in the back. Should be interesting. Let's go to break, Trevor. When we come back, we'll talk about the other big sensation of today, Danny Krueger's defection from the Tories to Reform UK. A very, very dramatic event. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks.
You know, he's not a particularly political big beast. He's not really of any one faction of the Labour Party or the other. He's trying to be all things to all people. And I think he made a fatal misstep early on, that he believed that actually just boring, technocratic, loyally legalistic leadership is what the country was crying out for. Just because they were naffed off with the Tories and they didn't quite like, you know, they were sick of all that nonsense, which we can go into again another day, doesn't necessarily mean that what they were ready for is basically government by civil service.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the Sun's former political editor, Trevor Kavanagh. Trevor, they say it's impossible to keep a secret in Westminster. Your brilliant career of scoops is testament to that. But the Reform UK party did kind of pull one off today. No one knew anything about Danny Krueger. Danny Krueger, the former Work and Pensions Minister, shadow Work and Pensions Minister, very highly regarded Conservative figure, a thoughtful man, not a fly-by-night. He suddenly defected. And let's just remind ourselves of what he said as he crossed the House from the Tories to Reform UK.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I am not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
So, Trevor, Danny Krueger, as I say, I think the most important thing to say about this guy, or actually the most important thing to say about him is, of course, he is Bake Off star Prue Leith's son. The second most important thing to say about him is he's known as a very thoughtful figure. He would not have done this lightly, to say the least. Now, very crucial to point out, this guy was the Conservative MP, is the Conservative MP, until yesterday anyway, for East Wiltshire, one of the safest Tory seats in the country. He could have swanned out his career, kept his parliamentary salary until the day he decided to retire. So by defecting to the Reform Party, what he's done, he's sacrificed his own political and possibly financial security. So it was not a move that can be dismissed as someone, you know, knew he's going to lose his seat or had lost his seat. So a very senior figure in Tory circles has defected, the first sitting MP to do it, to Reform UK. This is pretty significant, isn't it?
It is indeed. This is big political news. It's big potatoes at Westminster, and it's also very bad political news for Kemi Badenoch and for the Conservative Party. The thing about Danny Krueger is that he is, as you say, not just a rent-a-quote MP who just talks off the top of his head. He's a very thoughtful man. He has things to say which resonate. He's a Christian. He is actually a person who probably would resonate very well with those hundreds of thousands, I mean, estimates of possibly more than 1 million people who turned up for those demonstrations in Trafalgar Square in Westminster over the weekend. This is the beginning, I think, of a seismic shift in British politics. Those people who turned up on Saturday were ordinary British citizens. They are the silent majority. They've remained silent for the last 20 years while chuntering away quietly and privately among friends and at the pub about the way this country is being run. And suddenly they have a focus, they have a voice, and they are no longer the silent majority, and they're not going to go away. And I think that what Danny Krueger has done is timed his exit from the Conservative Party with excruciating precision for Kemi Badenoch, because I suspect he will not be the last. I think by Christmas, the now 5-strong team of MPs under Nigel Farage at Westminster will be at least doubled. And I suspect that after the May elections next year, we may see quite a few heavyweights following Danny Krueger out of the shadow cabinet and taking to the Reform Party the sort of expertise in government that he knows and has said publicly he desperately needs.
And Kemi Badenoch, by the way, we should point out that Danny Krueger did personally pay tribute to her, so he has a lot of time for her, and this wasn't about her. So he was very courteous about his former boss. But her response to it, I think, kind of sums up what, I don't want to be nasty about Kemi Badenoch, but I just don't think she's up to this job. I never have from day one. And today she said, oh, well, this is the sort of thing that happens when a party is changing. Well, she really should not be shrugging her shoulders about someone like Danny Krueger crossing the House to Reform UK. She sounded almost complacent about it. Oh, more will come, but we'll be okay. It is this kind of assumption, isn't it, by the Tories and indeed the Labour Party, that somehow or other, the way it always was, the big two parties will always continue. Well, tell that to the Whigs, who suddenly disappeared overnight. It is very possible in the world of politics, even in a sort of ostensibly stable country like Britain, for a party to disappear overnight, isn't it?
It is, but look, I feel sorry for Kemi Badenoch, or indeed any person who took over the leadership of the Conservative Party last year after 14 years of truly horrific mismanagement. And, it's something that, for those people who've been loyal Tory supporters through thick and thin since the days long before Margaret Thatcher, I mean, they've been betrayed. They've been betrayed on the economy, on all sorts of things that they would have assumed that the Conservatives would have been a safe pair of hands on: education, social reform, welfare, but particularly immigration. And so Kemi Badenoch, basically, although she shrugs her shoulders, she has no alternative, because people are absolutely sick to the back teeth with what the Tories have left them with, which is a landslide, a loveless landslide of the most incompetent and spiteful politicians, a real gaggle of left and extreme left and a few slightly moderates to sort of balance the catastrophe of July the 4th last year. And they've still got possibly nearly 4 years to run. And the amount of ruin left in this country that they could turn into ashes in that period of time, we just cannot believe what we may be facing. I mean, Starmer's been bad enough, but just imagine what's likely to follow if he goes.
But in your experienced mind, though, there's no doubt that, or it seems certain that some kind of political earthquake is on its way, that somehow or other the forces of the right will no longer, maybe by the time we get to the next election, be represented by the Conservatives. It will be Reform UK taking the fight to Labour.
I'm very sorry to say this is true. I think that we are now, as we watch the disintegration of Labour, the replacement ultimately of Keir Starmer by someone even worse. Always that's impossible to imagine, but it's true and certain. And then when we get to the election, whenever that comes, I think every day that goes on, every day that someone else leaves the Conservative Party, someone like Danny Krueger is gold dust to reform. And a few more of his calibre are going to make reform respectable in a way that Nigel Farage on his own can't quite achieve. And that gives him authenticity. As we approach the election, all sorts of policies may start to emerge, which actually people who used to vote Conservative will identify with. And they'll feel more comfortable in that slot, because at last someone's coming to their rescue. We desperately need someone to come to our rescue. This country is plunging off a cliff in all sorts of ways, socially, politically, and culturally, to use a term which I think disguises other matters. But now we have a viable alternative. And I think the people who have already begun to swarm behind Farage and reform are going to just multiply over the coming years.
Yeah, there's a momentum about it. Can I get a last word from you, Trevor? It's been great talking to you, of course, about the people. Now, on Saturday, you know, the police said it was between 110, 150,000. I was down there. I wasn't actually participating, but I was in and around that protest. I was down in town for other reasons, going to the football, if you want to know. But first of all, it was a very happy party atmosphere. Only 29 arrests. That's remarkable. Secondly, I think it's very important to point out, a lot of the media saying, oh, this was Tommy Robinson's far-right demonstration. Tommy Robinson helped organise it. Of course, him and his supporters and his followers were there. But some estimates are that at least 500,000, as you said, maybe even 1 million turned up. They were not all Tommy Robinson supporters. This was a convergence, I feel, of people from all walks of life, all political factions, some of them not political at all, just coming together to say, this is a government that is letting us down. This is a government that isn't talking to us, isn't listening to us. It was, I think, an extraordinary, almost unique explosion of kind of civic protest by the people of this country.
It was, and I wasn't here. I'm now in Cyprus, as a matter of fact, but as I left, and I've been following it since, I understand that it was a pretty good-natured.
It was a very, as I say, I was there, Trevor, and
yeah.
It was like a carnival. It's a carnival atmosphere.
A very happy carnival, unlike the Notting Hill Carnival, where, unlike the demonstration on Saturday, I think 3 figures were arrested. Was it 300 people?
No, I think it was the early figures until yesterday were like 29. It may have got
on Saturday, but more than.
Oh no, it was about 450 at Notting Hill. Yeah.
Notting Hill. Well, there you are. Look, the simple fact is that this is a really representative sample of the great British public, the long-suffering great British public, which has held its breath, kept silent, mopped up an awful lot of misery, and the anger is palpable. And in London last week, when we had the tube strike, people being discharged from buses for no good reason, they'd suddenly come to a halt and everybody had to get off. The rain was bucketing down, and in that short interval, the number of people who are saying this country is bust. Yeah. You know, the anger that is smouldering away and has been for a long time has now erupted into a blaze, and it's not going to go away. And I think that Starmer and the Labour government have only just begun to see what faces them over the coming years.
Absolutely. If you want a metaphor for the catastrophe of this government, you should have been in London last week. I mean, among millions of other people, it made my life absolute hell trying to get to work and get back. And the worst image I had of last week, I think it was like something like Wednesday or Thursday, you know, being my very privileged self, I was able to get an Uber home. That was the only way to get back from here in London Bridge to where I live in North London. And we were going across Holborn Viaduct. It was 10 past 11 at night. There were, I estimated, about 300 people still waiting at the bus stop there, hoping to get a bus, but bus after bus was packed out. Where did those people live? What time would they get home? I mean, it was an absolute disaster last week. And as I say, this is our capital city. If you want a metaphor for this country unravelling, look at London last week. It really was a disaster. But so is everything else under Keir Starmer. Trevor, fantastic to talk to you. Enjoy Cyprus. Thanks for coming on. That was Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun, talking a lot of sense with vast experience. The guy's been covering Westminster, I think, since the 70s or something like that. So he knows what he's talking about. Let me know what you think about what he's talking about. 03444991000. Just how frustrated with this government are you? What did you think about the Unite the Kingdom demonstration on Saturday? What do you think about Mandelson? What do you think about Danny Krueger, now defecting from the Tories to Reform UK? And of course, we got one more scandal in Downing Street. The director of strategy, a guy called Paul Overton, former Fleet Street hack, has had to resign because he sent disgusting sexual emails about Diane Abbott. Doesn't bear thinking about, does it? But he's had to go. He's had to walk the plank. So one scandal to the next. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while in the studio, I'll be welcoming well-known influencer Jade Warwick. She has an Instagram account called The Warwick Report. And she's extremely upset, and so are many of us, about the way the left has reacted to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. She's based in Los Angeles, but she's British. So we will discuss the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. A young man, a loving husband, and the father of two little kids. The left seemed to, or many people on the left seem to feel that was a great event, dancing on his grave. Isn't that wonderful? He deserved it. What kind of reaction is that? We'll talk about that in just a little while. First up, let's take some of your calls. Let's talk to Kevin in Leicestershire. Hi, Kev.
Hi, Kev. You okay, mate?
Yeah, what would you like? You want to talk about Danny Krueger, yeah?
You got it. You nailed it. I just want to try and give some of the other viewers and yourself, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some less stress on it. I know there's some people worried about getting too many Conservatives over, and I, for one, can totally understand that after the super injunction and all the lack of action in the last 14 years.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make, and correct me if I'm wrong, like I say, of the Conservative Party are left wing anyway. They're not right. They're not true right. They are. They're liberals.
I couldn't agree with you more. Some of them. I mean, Boris Johnson, for example, he'd be on the left of the Lib Dem party, if you ask me. But yeah, I know you're making a good point, Kevin. And by the way, I got no skin in this game, but the way I see it, I mean, I know a few of the guys, obviously, in Reform UK, and I've always said to them, I said that the secret of the success of Reform UK will be to harness what the Conservatives used to be. So Reform UK, in essence, their policies, their outlook, their worldview is what the Conservative Party used to have until people like Cameron and Boris Johnson and Theresa May came along and said, oh, we mustn't be the nasty party. And they started sort of trying to mimic Labour. They became Labour light. That was a disaster. The Reform UK party has cashed in on that, hasn't it?
Well, exactly, yeah. And it seems to me, your impressions are brilliant, by the way.
That's strong, man.
Smash the gang.
Yeah,
Smash
the gang. Fixing the foundations.
Yeah, like I say, I won't over-elaborate, but yeah, as long as... No, and I know Nigel's a very articulate man. If he's taking the right Conservatives, you got to bear in mind, if you want a majority or close to a majority, you're talking 350 to 400 seats. He's building a government. Now, I know a lot of them will be businessmen that come in that no one's ever heard of, but you're going to need some politicians that can hit the ground running because this country's in a mess.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right, Kev. That a lot of Reform UK is reformers, but you know the people there from the early days, you know they're mortified. Oh, we can't keep taking Tories. We can't keep taking Tories. Well, look, the Conservative Party still has a lot of politicians, a lot of members who are traditional Tories, what the Tories used to be. I don't think there's any harm in Reform UK harnessing them, taking them on board. I don't think there is a problem. If you got chances, you know, think, oh, I think I'll jump ship and get onto the Reform boat just for political ambition, then, you know, to hell with them. But I agree with you, Kev. It's not, people shouldn't worry as much as they make out. Kev, I've got to go though, but very good point. Kevin in Leicestershire there. Jackie in Dorset, we'll talk to you later. Sorry, we've got to go to break now. And when we come back, as I say, Jade Warwick, all the way from Los Angeles, is in the studio. We'll talk about the fallout from the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. That next, stay tuned.
You know, he's not a particularly political big beast. He's not really of any one faction of the Labour Party or the other. He's trying to be all things to all people. And I think he made a fatal misstep early on, that he believed that actually just boring, technocratic, loyally legalistic leadership is what the country was crying out for. Just because they were naffed off with the Tories and they didn't quite like, you know, they were sick of all that nonsense, which we can go into again another day, doesn't necessarily mean that what they were ready for is basically government by civil service.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, in the studio, I've written here, Los Angeles-based British influencer Jade Warwick, but she's just told me she just moved to DC, Washington, DC. So Washington-based British influencer Jade Warwick is in the studio. You on Instagram, you have your account, the Warwick Report. Now, you're based in America. You've already made your feelings clear about this, and I couldn't agree with you more. It continues to be shocking, the way some elements of the left, rather too many of them, not all, but so many left-wingers have greeted Charlie's death, his assassination last week in Utah, with glee, dancing on his grave. Ha ha ha, he deserved it. Well, he should have said all those things. You know, if you talk that like that, you can expect things like that to happen. No, you can't. This is for a political opinion. People should not be shot dead for their political opinions. And let's remember, this is a 31-year-old loving husband with 2 little kids who were there. His wife, Erica, and his 2 little kids, 1 and 3, I think they are, were there at Utah Valley University when he was assassinated last Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah, Wednesday. Now, let's just play this. We played this earlier in the show. This is Bob Vylan. They're the anti-Semitic group, pop group, who went to Glastonbury and started chanting "Death, death to the IDF," plunging themselves and the BBC into a major scandal. BBC apologising and saying they should never have put this on, and so on and so forth. Anyway, Bob Vylan not really learning. Here they are in Amsterdam last night.
The pronouns was, were. I want to dedicate this next one. To an absolute piece of a human being.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, R.I.P. Charlie Kirk, you piece of... he's just one. It's concerning, it's worrying, isn't it, that so many people on the left are like this, that they cannot see the lack of humanity in celebrating someone's death. A father, a husband, a father of little kids, and they think it's a laugh. R.I.P. you piece of... and so on and so forth. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that celebrating anyone's death is cruel, callous, sanctimonious. They are lacking so much empathy for his family. These little girls who are now going to grow up without their father, that is horrific. And his poor wife, and she's such a beautiful woman, inside and out. Imagine what she has to go through for the rest of her life. And you're right, it's not all the left, but it's the far left. It's all of the far left who are saying this. They're celebrating it. They're making T-shirts. Have you seen the one?
T-shirts?
Yeah, have you seen the one where there's, it's a picture of a girl's face. She's like 3 or 4. And there's like spaghetti sauce on her face. And they're saying, Charlie Kirk's daughter in the front row, haha.
Unbelievable.
I mean, what is wrong with these people?
Let's have a look at Erica, his wife's statement, shall we?
They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die.
Very, very powerful stuff. And she's right. I mean, the irony is that all these lefties who are, dancing on poor Charlie Kirk's grave actually are fueling the forces of their opponents, their political opponents. It's important to say Charlie Kirk was not far right. You know, a lot of the media over here characterising the march on Saturday as far right. It wasn't. Important to say, Charlie Kirk stood for traditional values. He was a Republican, he was a Christian, he was pro-life, but he wasn't far right. So this demonisation of people like Charlie, oh, far right is an extremist, is typical of them, is wrong, it's an exaggeration, and it's got to stop.
In my eyes, he was a moderate. You're exactly right. And they won't like who's coming next, because they are not going to be moderate. The person who picks up his microphone is going to go 10 times harder.
Yeah, as Erica was saying there, that they have unleashed probably a kind of volcanic eruption of fury from the right. Now, I always say, Jade, I don't want to exonerate the right. You know, the political debate, discourse has descended, sadly, around the West in particular, into sort of a massive name-calling, really. But the names that the left call people from the right are far more extreme than the names the right tend to call the left. And what it is the people of the left, they think they're God's given politicians, you know, that they equal love and they equal humanity. And if we're, those of us from the right, we're the devil, we're satanic, we're evil. It is that mad assumption of theirs that leads them to feel there's nothing wrong with dancing on a poor, assassinated man's grave.
Yeah, the tolerant party are not so tolerant of other people's opinions. In fact, they take out those who have differing opinions. I call them the party of hypocrisy. And honestly, I don't think that the right, the Republicans, the Conservatives, are perfect whatsoever.
No, of course not.
But they at least have...
Donald Trump's no slouch when it comes to a few names, doesn't it?
I don't know, his is kind
but
of funny.
He doesn't look. The point is, Jade, Donald Trump does not say Joe Biden's the devil, he's Satan or anything like
Sleepy
that.
Sleepy Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, he uses, he doesn't hold back. But the name calling from the right just seems to be on a much lower level than the name calling on the left. And Charlie Kirk's assassination has highlighted that.
Yes,
and I think we have to do it on both sides of the Atlantic. Don't forget we've had political assassinations here too. We have to do something about this rhetoric, don't we?
We really do. It's interesting you bring up the name calling, because I was at the Tommy rally. I was backstage.
Well, it wasn't a Tommy rally.
Well, yeah, it was
let's be careful here.
For sure, it was the British rally.
It was Unite the Kingdom. Tommy Robinson and his crew were part of it. They were not all of it by any manner.
For sure, sorry. I was invited by Tommy, so that's why I brought that up. But I was looking through comments on Instagram, because I was posting things in the moment, and someone called me a Nazi for being there.
Of course.
I thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I was a Nazi.
Yeah.
It's news to me.
Well, that's it. That's the other thing. If you're, this is what left-wingers do. We have you know, John McDonnell, the former shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, worked with Corbyn. He called Reform UK last week in a speech at the TUC conference. He called them the new Nazis and essentially said that Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, was the new Adolf Hitler. It's this kind of juvenile name-calling. You know, hitherto you could maybe laugh about it a bit, but we found out last week it can lead to extreme violence and tragic circumstances.
That's true, yeah. I mean, I always laugh at it because I feel like if you react emotionally, they get a kick out of it. So to me, everything's funny when they scream and shout about it. But
it's not
unfortunately,
funny, is it?
no, but when they then take it into action and do something like, you know, unalive someone, that's when it no longer gets funny. It gets serious.
But what we found out last week, and as I say, it's happened in this country, Joe Cox, David Amis, that these kind of words, if you allow rhetoric to get too extreme, it can lead to extreme acts. I mean, I'm a great believer in freedom of speech. And you know, I wouldn't want to bring in laws to stop people calling me a Nazi if they wanted to, if they want to, or you a Nazi or whatever. I wouldn't want laws against that. But it would be nice if we could somehow persuade people like that, actually on both sides of the political divide, that calling people Nazis and fascists and the devil, that takes it too far and it leads to tragic consequences.
For sure. I mean, there are some laws in place to prevent hate speech, bullying, harassing communications online in the UK. But it does.
I'd get rid of those laws, but that's another
sure.
issue.
I don't agree with them either. I mean, I'm an American now too, and I'm protected by the First Amendment. And I think it's very important to have free speech, because you also get to see what people believe in and whether you want to align with them or not.
And I don't think that you cure, if you like, or solve the problem of this extreme speech by laws.
No.
It has to be consensus. So somehow or other, I mean, this is me being naive and optimistic and idealistic, perhaps. Somehow or other, we have to persuade everyone involved in the political narrative to dial it down a bit. I mean, it's a long shot, but it would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be lovely, but I think it really is to do with the parents, because it's how you're raised.
And teachers as well.
For sure.
They don't teach kids how to debate in a civilised way.
No, sir. And I mean, I was, disciplined as a child. I'm sure you probably would too. And that's why we don't have that attitude. But from what I've seen, especially in America, it's far more polarised there. And the ultra-far left are from families where they are coddled, and when they throw tantrums, their parents allow it.
Yeah. But I mean, I take your point about America, but we mustn't take the attitude on this side of the Atlantic, oh, this is just lovely little old England. Well, it's almost as bad here. Jade, all too brief, but thank you very much for coming in. Let me know what you think about what Jade's saying there. We need to dial down this rhetoric, don't we? And if you've got any doubts, ask Erica Kirk. I really do think that some of the terms that get bandied about lead to tragic results, and we know what we're talking about. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Thank you very much to Jade Warwick. You can find her on the Warwick Report on Instagram. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. Next up, the Royal Family and Harry. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just to let you know, Jeremy Corbyn, former Labour leader, has been on Channel 4 News tonight, and he has announced that Keir Starmer his successor, has got himself into a huge hole, that's a quote, over the Peter Mandelson affair. Corbyn also branded the now former number 10 Director of Strategy, Paul Ovenden, who made derogatory email and WhatsApp remarks about his friend Diane Abbott. They were sexual in nature. It was just nastiness. Jeremy Corbyn said that this behaviour was utterly disgusting. It's not often I agree with Jeremy Corbyn, but he's right. What is going on at number 10 Downing Street? You might want to bear that in mind if you want to give me a call a little later in about 20-25 minutes or so. I'll be taking your calls. 03444991000. Send me a WhatsApp voice note if you like. We'll read some of those out, or just send me a message and we'll read those out. But ideally, preferably, you get on the blower and you give me a phone. We can talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the royals specifically. Let's talk about Prince Harry, who once again over the last couple of days has treated us to some extraordinary behaviour, indicating that he just lives on his own planet as opposed to the one that the rest of us live on. Let's introduce my next excellent guest, royal biographer, a woman who wrote a book about Prince Harry and spends a lot of time with him, Angela Levin. Welcome, Angela.
Hello.
Good to have you on board. Well, before we get to anything else, let's talk about what I think is extraordinary. Prince Harry gave an interview. He flew off to Ukraine as part of his charm offensive, his what I called his Love Me Do royal tour, his pretend royal tour, where he went to a load. He thinks that after 5 years of trashing the royal family, calling his dad a racist, calling Kate a racist, calling all of us in Britain a nation of slave drivers, just behaving appallingly, that he can come over here for 4 quick days, do a few happy, snappy appearances at charities, have a quick cup of tea with his dad, go off to Ukraine to do something wonderful for our troops or for the troops over there, and we're all going to go, well, Harry, that's it then. Everything is forgiven and forgotten. It is extraordinary. This guy is he lacks so much depth. He's so shallow that he doesn't understand the seriousness of the damage that he and Meghan, his American wife, have done over the past 5 years of essentially slinging grenades over the Atlantic. And he says, this is where it gets almost shocking. Talking about his book Spare, in which he branded Charles, his dad, a mean-spirited, uncaring father, called Camilla, Queen Camilla now, the villain of the story, revealed how his brother allegedly violently attacked him, and told us how he lost his virginity in a field behind a country pub. He said that was not airing his dirty laundry in public. What on earth was it then, Angela?
Very good question. I think what it is, I mean, just let me say that he called his father and William that they were trapped in the most terrible life. Now he's coming back and pretending that it's fantastic, so pleased to be here. You know, the hypocrisy is extraordinary. I think both he and Meghan, because we've seen that with all her sort of cooking, is that she doesn't take anything that is said. She doesn't hold it. She just carries on. He's just doing the same. He's copied it from her. He gets something that says, you know, this is very wrong with you here, Harry, because ABC. It just floats over him. And the fact is now 41 today, and he can't actually do anything to think about someone else. When he says, my conscience is clear, you want to say to him, yes, but what about your father? What about your brother? What about, you know, he's not talking about anybody else but himself, and he thinks that's good enough. You know, I'm very happy with who I am. He's not. We've seen him looking so unhappy, so miserable, but he's like a sort of dummy that you wind him up and he's only got so many things that he can say about himself. But it's very painful. It's very painful for to get a lot of sort of journalists now writing to say Harry is fun and he's quick and he's much nicer than William, who is so slow and doesn't want to talk to anyone. I think it's all absolutely appalling. I can't understand how you can actually not judge a man who was dreadful to his grandmother, who he adored so much. He wanted to put a reef down 2 days ago, didn't he? Yeah. But you know, for his grandmother, because he was so sad and he loved her so much. But he was on the phone to her for 3 months, being vile, wanting money, shouting at her, wanting things for himself. You know, he should have just shut up, but he can't balance anything. It's very, very strange or deliberate.
Yeah, he says the book, talking about Spare, it was a series of corrections to stories already out there. One point of view had been put and it needed to be corrected. I don't remember a story being out there about where he lost his virginity. I don't remember a story being out there about how he got frostbite on his, how can I put this, his manhood. And while he was trying to thaw it out, he was looking at a picture of his mother. I don't remember those stories being out there that needed to be corrected. That is a load of claptrap. He goes on to say, I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear. It is not about revenge. It is about accountability. Do me a favour. It was about revealing sordid little details, intimate details, details that should have remained private so he could make money selling the book. Right?
Absolutely right. But he's still doing it now. You know, he hasn't just got rid of that and think, oh, I'm so sorry of some of the things I said. I know it has hurt other people. He's not interested in other people. It's all about him, and he can't actually get out of it. It's you want to sort of smack him and say, now, come on, you know, think about somebody else for a change. And he doesn't think about anybody. He's never wrong. Meghan is never wrong. Yeah. They're always right in everything they do, but everyone else is wrong. Yeah. I don't know how you can hold on to that when you're supposed to be a mature person.
Well, what is it? It's his birthday today, isn't it? What is he, 42, 43? He revealed in this recent interview a couple of days ago that his wife, Meghan, when he was writing the book, gave him the words of wisdom, as he put it. Her words of wisdom were, just stick to the truth.
Well, she's the last person to do that, isn't she? She does have lie after lie. So she's really saying to him, so don't bother about it. And Harry, I mean, he doesn't stick to it either. The things he said, he's fine and he's doing very well and everything, but it's everyone else who's terrible. How can you do that? How can you say that to your father? How can you say that to your brother, who looked after him so marvellously when he was small? And he said to me about William that he's the only one who trusts. He can trust. Well, nobody can trust him. I mean, you just can't trust him. And I feel that the king would be absolutely in a terrible state if he let them come over and try and do what the late Queen doesn't want them to do, is half in and half out. Yeah. What they want to do is to get some money and to get some jobs so that everyone will give them TV, and Meghan can actually get her MRM. She wants that. He wants that for her. But she's just made a mockery of it. Do you remember when it was Netflix had this terrible thing when she bent over to curtsy, and she thought it was ridiculous anybody but does that. All of a sudden, up she pops, and she wants to have that because she wants to, you know, be treated very well, and everyone has to bow to her. I mean, they are a ridiculously mixed up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's kind of weird. I want to talk about the King's meeting, the Tea Party for Two last Thursday, I think it was it Wednesday, just before Harry surprisingly went off to Ukraine. I want to talk about that in just a second, but I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but some of our audience watching on television will be able to see. This is a sort of birthday card stroke Instagram post that Meghan made today. Look at it. So there's this picture of Harry, right, when he was in his military days. That's nearly 20 years ago. And she says, this is her message. Oh, hi, birthday boy. That's it. That's it. And also that picture is weird. I mean, apart from the fact that it dates back to the days when he had hair, 20 years ago, he looks kind of odd. You know, it's a very, very strange thing for her to do. My theory is that he will think that he's had a real triumph in Britain and she won't really like that much.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of looking when he's unhappy before he met her, and this can happen again if he gets into the royal family. But it is a weird photograph. He looks quite a strange young man, but as you say, lots of fuzzy hair. But she's been very quiet over all this, and usually when she's being very quiet, she suddenly jumps back with something that's quite important to her, to get her own back, because she won't have liked that Harry was having all that television attention when she was at home, because she's not doing her cooking anymore, she's not doing the clothes anymore, she's not doing anything very much. But what interested me was him saying that he wants the children to come and have education here.
Yeah, what is that about? I mean, I thought this was a terribly unsafe country.
Yes, it's a very unsafe country. But at the moment, they're sort of 4 and 6. Now, do you want to put them away? Will Meghan come over? She said she will never come to the UK again. So what's happening with the children? I mean, none of these things are properly said. And he told me that he hates school. He was a naughty boy at school, and he said when he went to one of the schools he went to that he only would play with the naughty boys at the back of the classroom. He wasn't interested. So why does he want to send his children to do that when it's not any good whatsoever?
Yeah, in this country that just about 3 months ago he said, oh, it's terrible, they won't give me armed police protection when I come to this country, so I'll never be able to bring my family to Great Britain again. And now all of a sudden we learn he's thinking about sending his kids there. There's no consistency to this guy. Let's talk about this meeting last week, Angela, if we can. So when he arrived on Monday, we were all agog. Would he see his dad? Would he see his dad? Finally, I think it was on Wednesday, we saw Charles boarding a private jet back from Scotland to London, and indeed in the afternoon he met his son, his wayward son, around about 4 o'clock for 54 minutes. They hadn't seen each other for 19 months. Apparently the meeting that Charles had before with some charity or another went on for longer, and the meeting he had afterwards, again with something fairly insignificant, went on for longer. Now, a lot of the papers were, oh, this is it, oh, it's a rapprochement, the reunion, Harry's comeback, astonishing, astonishing, astonishing. Well, we're beginning to hear now that that meeting was not as amiable as you might think. And there's a big piece in The Sun on Saturday suggesting, and I don't doubt it somehow, that the real reason Charlie, or rather Harry, wants to reopen sort of a relationship with his father, don't forget, until last week they weren't even talking to each other. Harry needs the Bank of Dad to reopen. He needs money. That was the reason for Tea for Two with his father last week.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But if you remember, while he's been here, he said he's given £1.1 million for poor children.
So the children in need for BBC, yeah.
And 370,000 for children in Gaza. Now, very nice, but it is actually a decision that the Royals make, is not say exactly the amount they give. They can say they've given something, but they think it's not appropriate to say exactly the amount. And the second one is, then was he asking his father for some more money? You know, if he's got so much money like that to give it away, I'm not saying he shouldn't, but if he needs to eat, if he needs to keep all his cookeries people there and all the rest of it, he needs to do that, but it's not. So he's got all this money that he's giving away in a very casual way, that it's extraordinary. Netflix is, you know, stopping working for them, so they won't get money there. So I can't understand what that is. It's another thing that you can't put the pieces together. It's just all nonsense.
I've got a theory, Angela, as a former resident of the United States of America. Giving money to charity is a good way to get yourself a tax break. And my alarm bells rang when I heard that the amount he'd given to children in need was £1.1 million. Think about that. That is a weird amount to announce. I suspect it may have crossed the threshold of some kind of tax barrier so that he'll get a bigger tax break. I'm not trying to impugn or undermine his donations to charity, but in America, donations to charity are not entirely selfless. I used to make them myself, so there you go. That proves why people give money to charity in the United States.
Ah, that's very interesting. But if he's giving money in England, would that be...
No. But your finances, if you're based in America, you pay American taxes all over the world for everything you do. So he could have been, I don't know this, but he could have been chasing a tax break. As I say, the thing that got me interested, or rose my alarm bells, if you like, was this amount, 1.1 million. It's a very strange amount to announce, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You'd think he had money in a completely different country, and that made the same if you can turned it into English money. But I don't know, maybe it's so many for each person. You can't work it out, you see. It's just silly, and that's why he shouldn't have said anything like that. He should have said he's giving some money, and that would have been clear and keen, and that's it.
Yeah. But of course, he is desperate to regain the popularity in this country that he has so spectacularly lost. And as I said at the beginning of our conversation, Angela, he just doesn't understand the damage he's done. He thinks it's a bit like, oh, sorry about that. You know, well, we can get past all that, can't we? Now, one last point I'd like to make to you is while there was this brief meeting with the King, the fact that William at one point was within 7 miles of him, so near and yet so far, and didn't see him, and the meeting with the King only underlined just how bitter the continuing feud between Harry and Prince William is.
Well, he was so rude about Catherine, and I think you care very much for the person you love, and also she's been so ill that he could make horrible comments about his adorable wife. He did say at one point that she was the sister he'd always wanted, and now Meghan can't stand Catherine because she feels jealous about her, and Harry feels that, you know, he just wants to keep up his nastiness. But let me just tell you quickly, he'd said when he would not go and sit with Charles unless it was empty, nobody was there. He didn't want Camilla there, absolutely not. But Camilla was there, and she was there to protect Charles.
Excellent. Yeah, I get that. That will be because Harry cannot be trusted not to betray confidences. So that conversation might have gone public were it not. I didn't realise Camilla was there, because I would have thought, given what he said about her in his book, that she would have given it a wide berth, but she was there to protect her husband.
Yes, and I think that's really a win on King Charles's side, and to have her there for him, and so he could be more relaxed, and there were aides there as well, so he was very protective, because you can't judge whether Harry would come in and shout, which he has done before, at his father, who is still very ill. And this way, he was protected. And if you saw Harry out in the taxi afterwards, he did look jolly unhappy. So I think it was manipulated in a way that nothing very much was said, but at least he saw his father, so he's very happy about that.
Now, I can tell you one more thing. You probably know this, but Matt Wilkinson, the Sun's excellent royal correspondent, was telling me before the show that when Harry turned up to Clarence House, right, you will know this, but there's a sort of public entrance where diplomats, politicians, charity chiefs, they go in through that. And the royal family go in through a kind of private back door. Prince Harry had to go through the public door, the front door. That's, I think, interesting. One last question to you. Now, the second series of With Love Meghan, in which Meghan makes mundane dishes and sprinkles them with dried flowers, and we're supposed to call that entertainment. That died without trace. It barely registered in the TV ratings competition. And as ever, her brand, in which she sells things like cookie dough for $14 and jam, marmalade now, another $9 a jam, and so on and so forth, and the rosé wine. This is a company or an online store, if you like, that sells extremely mundane domestic products that you can get next door in your local grocery store for a fraction of the price for astronomically high costs, high prices. More and more people saying they can't understand if this business is working at all, and if it is, why. But mainly, most people predict that as ever, isn't going to last for as ever, in fact may not last much longer. It is a baffling business, isn't it?
It's as never now, isn't it, really? Yes. Well, this is because she couldn't get anybody to run the business. I mean, not many people want to work with her because she knows that she's the only one who's right. So she decided that she would be the one to control everything, but she doesn't know how to do it, and she doesn't look at things thoroughly and carefully. She's very sort of jumping from one thing to another. She gets a jam, she gets a marmalade, she gets clothes, she gets teas. You know, you actually have to concentrate very hard on what you're doing. If you jump about, you're not going to get anywhere, and that's what she's seen. It's not, nobody's interested, nobody wants to buy her stuff. It's
too expensive, and she's no Gwyneth Paltrow. You know, people aren't going to spend $14 for a jar of pretend jam just because it's got Meghan's name on it. Everything in this shop, the online shop, is, as I say, mundane, and people can't work out exactly where the business is coming from, if it's coming at all. I don't predict as ever will last for long, but never a dull moment with these two, Angela, and excellent to talk to you as always. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
You too, Angela. Take care now. Angela Levin there, royal biographer on all things Harry and Meghan and the latest goings on Planet Harry, a different planet to the one the rest of us live on, it seems. Right, let's go to break. When we come back, your calls, your messages, your WhatsApp voice notes. So, hang on, what is the number? 0344 499 1000. Give me a call. Let's talk.
there is no route for Andy Burnham to become leader of the Labour Party.
Correct.
It's quite important to say that.
Yeah.
Whether he wants it or not, because he is the Mayor of Greater Manchester, and because that role includes running the police force, he cannot double job, as it's called, so he can't be an MP and the Mayor of Greater Manchester. So he would have to make a choice. There would have to be a seat available for him to run in. He would have to win that seat. Then there would have to be a Labour Party contest. There's a lot of what-ifs involved in that sentence.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I should say, big news here on Talk at 10 p.m. In other words, just over half an hour's time. Brand new show hosted by Harry Cole, the Sun's brilliant Harry Cole, who has now gone over to be their sort of overlord in America, looking at the whole world of Trump and the States. So he's based there in the States. So he's got a new show that's going to be on every night, I believe, every weekday night, 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday, 10 p.m. It's called Harry Cole Saves the West. And trust me, folks, he will. He definitely will. If anyone can save the West, it is Harry Cole. And at 10 p.m, he'll launch his first show here on Talk. So you don't want to miss that. Funny enough, it's not from America. He's in this building. Of course, he's come over for Donald Trump's state visit, which starts tomorrow. So Harry Cole Saves the West from London, this week anyway, tonight at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss that. Brand new show. I believe Petri Hoskin will join you at 11 p.m. after an hour of Harry. So that should be a great show. I hope you enjoy it. Right, let's play a WhatsApp voice note first. This is Kieran on Labour.
Hey Kevin, we needed this government to be this bad. We needed a lesson. We took our eye off the ball with Rishi and Theresa May and everybody else. We've only ever had two parties to select from. Labour get in, but this is not the Labour that used to care about, coal miners and railway workers back in the day. This is a completely different bunch. This is a A-level student, bag carrying, no mark, liberal Londoner party, and they don't stand for anything. So we needed them to reveal themselves. They hate us and they're going to lose.
I'm not sure, Kieran, if I quite got along, we needed them to do this. But yeah, in the long run, it could polish off Labour the way they're going on, and a lot of people might like that. They certainly do seem to be in a very serious self-harming process. The country very, very disaffected with Keir's crew, and not surprising at all. Let's go to Jackie in Dorset. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, good evening, Bonnie lad. How are you?
I'm very, very well. That's a nice Geordie accent you got there in Dorset.
It is. I'm from the right side of the river, Hiddy.
Absolutely. So what do you want to say? You want to talk about Starmy, yeah?
Yeah, I do. Just to put you in the picture, Kev. Mm-hmm. In the late 80s, early 90s, I was a staff nurse at Broadmoor Hospital.
Oh, right.
And Jimmy Savile at the time was a governor, and he had a house, and he also had keys to get on the ward. Right?
Yeah, we remember that. Yes.
Right, and he used to have a caravan which used to park on the driveway of this beautiful house, which was a detached Victorian, red brick house. Yeah. And everybody there, everybody I knew who worked there knew what was going on, because he used to bring visitors up. Let's.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember the stories, Jackie, after he was finally exposed for his horrific deeds. All the people in the hospitals and around the morgues and everything said, yeah, well, we all knew, but nobody seemed to want to do anything about it. Don't forget, he was Prince Charles at the time. Prince Charles's best friend, very close with Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, yeah.
The man who groomed the nation, they called him.
Right. The point I want to make, Kev, is that he failed to do anything about Jimmy Savile. Now then, skip on a few years to Al Fayed. He stated, and I'm ashamed to say this, but he stated on BBC TV that the Al Fayed case never crossed his desk. What a liar. What an absolute liar. Somebody in a position as Al Fayed, if that came when the Met reported it and it went to CPS, it must have crossed his bloody desk.
I'm not sure. I don't know the details, the chronology of the Al Fayed affair, but I do know that Starmer, in terms of Jimmy Savile, said that didn't cross his desk, even though he was
lying.
Even though he was the director of public prosecutions at the time. I'm not sure about Al Fayed. I can't comment on that, but I do know that his line on why Jimmy Savile, if you like, got away with it was that it didn't cross his desk.
Oh, he's lying. He said on
he lies
BBC
about everything
TV,
else.
He said on BBC TV, which I'm ashamed I used to watch. that, no, I am. I could jump in the harbour for doing that. He said the case never crossed his desk.
Yeah, correct.
He's a liar. He's an absolute liar. And I'll tell you what, when he was elected Prime Minister of this country, because in the last election, I didn't vote.
Well, a lot of people, you felt politically disenfranchised, right?
He's an absolute liar.
Yeah. I have to say, Jackie, for legal reasons, that I don't know if he's actually lying, that he never knew about the Jimmy Savile case. But what I do know is it's pretty unlikely that he didn't. But he contends that that is something that didn't cross his desk. So it is
crosses his desk, Kev.
Well, he's got a very, very slippery desk. Everything falls off it very quickly.
He knows nought about nothing. You know, what's the process of something falling off your desk?
He says it didn't cross his desk. But listen, Jackie, I'm not believing a word of what he's saying about Peter Mandelson right now. He's saying, I didn't know about the emails and all that. I don't believe him. I just don't believe him. And, this is a Prime Minister that you can very easily say is an outright liar because he's been caught lying so many times. Not good, Jackie, but a very good call from you. Thanks for ringing. Enjoy Dorset. Good to talk to Jackie there in lovely Dorset. Here's Pete. WhatsApp voice note on Bob Vylan.
Kevin, how come Bob Vylan is in Amsterdam? How come he's not here in front of a court facing jail for hatred and threats of violence towards people? How is he just managing to get away with this? He shouldn't even be out of the country. He should have had his liberty taken away from him until a court trial. This is absolutely disgusting. Can't be doing this. They can't be carrying on like this with this bloke. He needs to be hauled up in court.
Pete, I know where you're coming from and I understand your anger. I actually, I believe in free speech. So if Bob Vylan wants to go around saying all this crap, then I think he should be allowed to. But we do have hate speech laws. I don't like them, but they exist. And he broke them. He broke them at Glastonbury. And so I get where you're coming from. I mean, if we're going to have hate speech laws, then Bob Vylan should be prosecuted. What's he doing in Amsterdam? He's obviously got himself a Dutch tour. But don't forget this self-harming campaigner, or self-styled campaigner, destroyed his American tour by his Glastonbury antics. His American tour was cancelled because of his outburst of anti-Semitic hatred, and now here he is doing it over in Holland as well, in the Netherlands. So not about the Jews this time, not about Israel, but about Charlie Kirk. Now, if you want to say, ha, 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 Charlie Kirk is dead, rest in peace, you piece of... again, I deplore that. It's disgusting. But if you want to say it, you should be allowed to say it. You can't... if you want freedom of speech, you have to take it warts and all. So I believe, I'm sorry to say, I believe Bob Villan should be allowed to say the disgusting things he said about Charlie Kirk. In fact, I believe that all left-wingers, if they want to dance on poor Charlie's grave, they should be allowed to. I don't like it. I think we should try to persuade them to stop, but I don't think there should be laws against what people say. That's my feeling. Let me know what you think. 0344499 1000. Let's have a look at this. This is from Hugh in Basingstoke. He says, "Hey Kevin, I'm only a simple fella, but can you explain what Starmer means when he says I won't surrender the British flag to violence? It's a very odd statement. Is he a lawyer by any chance?" It's his way of demeaning that huge demonstration on Saturday. Last time, you remember the riots last summer, after the horror in Southport, his way of demeaning those riots, those protests, they were mainly protests, was to call everyone involved far-right thugs. Well, he's learned that people won't put up with that anymore, so his new thing is, I won't surrender the British flag to violence. And what he means by that was those people in London waving the St George's Cross and the Union Jack was somehow violent. 29 arrests. Maybe 300, 400,000 people there. 29 arrests. It wasn't violent. It wasn't violent. Let's quickly talk to Darren in Walsall. Hello, Darren.
Hello, Kev. Just before I make my point about Scandalson, can I just say a couple of things? But Paul Mason, once of the BBC, his tweet Saturday, what did he say? All the football fans have turned up, they're on the third can of lager.
Yeah.
This gives you the insight to what they think. And secondly, your show last Thursday was probably the best 3 hours of broadcasting I've ever heard.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, Philip, Brendan, and...
Oh, it was, yeah, no, you're right. I'm remembering it now. We had... also
Philip Kinsey, Brendan O'Neill, and Kinsey Schofield.
That was a good, yeah, you're right. I did come out of the studio then, Darren, and said, no, that was a show. That was a show.
Mate,
so thank you.
With Kinsey Schofield, had a lump in my throat.
Yeah, no, that was very... Because she was a very close friend of Charlie Kirk, so that was... it was a bit uncomfortable for me, but she wanted to...
Brilliant. I thought you was brilliant.
Well, thank you. She wanted to speak out for him, and she lost it a bit, but as I remember, we went to break, and then we came back and hit the Royal Circuit again. But you want to talk about Mandelson, Darren?
Yeah, well, what I think, and I think with him refusing to resign, I think he's told at least old Morgan McSweeney, I think he said, look, I've got all this baggage before you give me this job. And if they've gone, yeah, I'll tell the gaffer, don't worry about it, everything will be fine. And I think that's why he's dug his heels in. I think he said, why should I resign when I told you all this? So why the heck should I resign? And I think old Two-Tier knows that. But he's had to, in the end, he's had to sack him in here, and that's why Mandelson there has got to be in his body, because he's thinking, hang on, you've sacked me, and I told you about it. I told
well, that's his contention. That's his contention. I think the questionable sequence of events is this, that Starmer says when he told the House of Commons on Wednesday, PMQ's Prime Minister's Questions, that Mandelson had his full confidence. Yeah. I think Starmer knew all about those excruciating, toe-curling emails to Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein's conviction for a paedophile sex offence. I think he knew all about it. But he says, no, I didn't know. But people in his office knew. Morgan McSweeney knew. Something's got to give here, Darren. Someone has to go because of this. It's an extraordinary situation, and it is going to make Donald Trump's state visit over the next 2 days total shambles, a total shambles. Everywhere they go, Starmer and Trump will be quizzed about Mandelson, will be quizzed about Epstein, and this is all because Starmer was stupid enough to give Scandalson, as you quite rightly call him, a job with a serious job like ambassador to Washington, despite his background and his record. That was a terrible, terrible mistake that next week, or as of tomorrow, will embarrass the King and will embarrass the President of the United States. Absolute shambles. Darren, great call. Thank you very much. Please call me again. Daryl in Walsall there. Let's go to break, and Darren, Darren. Darren in Walsall. Let's go to break. When we come back, more calls, more messages. Stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Here's a message from text from Ernie. It's a good one. It's what I've been trying to say. Hi, Kev. An estimated 250,000 people from a country full of strangers from all walks of life, creeds and colours descended on the capital on Saturday to show peacefully that this government is not doing what it was elected to do. It's as simple as that. They need to open their eyes. It's not far-right thuggery, it's a cry for help. And that is just being foolishly ignored. That's well put, Ernie. It really is. I think it's a cry of despair. Here's another one from Matty. Hi, Kev. You would not believe it. The Labour morons. Let's try not to call people names there. The Labour morons, I agree, out canvassing, just knocked on my door, and boy, did I just have the best moment after my rant. I now feel I should have recorded it. But seriously, they're out in Coventry now, scrambling around for votes. Also, can I say there was a translator aside, just in case I didn't speak the proper English. Great show. Thanks, Matty. This is from Rich. The left and the unions are going after McSweeney, Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff in Downing Street, and Starmer because they are broke and still think they can get Corbyn in. Good luck with that. And of course, a lot of people are saying that with the sudden exit today of Paul Ovenden, the Director of Strategy at Number 10 Downing Street, after he sent vile emails, sexual emails about Diane Abbott, apparently date back to 2017, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. A lot of people saying that might be Mandelson. I'm not sure whether Mandelson's out there operating yet, but trust me, you get on the wrong side of this guy and he will stab you in the back or maybe even in the front. Starmer should be afraid. Should be very afraid. Let's quickly listen to a last WhatsApp voice note. This is Wayne on Bob Villan.
Evening, Kev. I've just seen Bob Villan post a grovelling apology video where apparently he didn't celebrate his death, and the only negative thing he said about him was that he was a piece of So, yeah, I think this is the damage control, because obviously all of his gigs are getting cancelled left, right and centre. If Glastonbury wasn't bad enough, you then double down on something like this. Like they say, go woke, go broke.
Well, that's a good point, Wayne, because Bob Villan, the singer, if you call it singing, what's his name? Pascal Robinson Foster. Now, that is a revolutionary's name, isn't it? Comes from the mean streets of downtown Ipswich. Well, he screwed his American tour after Glastonbury. They were supposed to have a big tour of America. Probably would have made a lot of money and done his career a lot of good. But, of course, that got cancelled because of his death to the IDF anti-Semitic chant at Glastonbury. And now he's over in Holland, in the Netherlands, busy screwing up this tour with more of his cartoon counter-culture claptrap. He's a joke. He's a joke, and he's a self-harming joke, because it looks like his Dutch tour is over as well. What an idiot. What an idiot. And now he's trying to apologise his way out of it. Good luck with that, Bob. Right, let's go back to the phones and let's talk to Matt in Cheshire. Hello, Matt.
Hi, good evening, Kev. Great show as always.
Thank you.
I was calling about Daniel Krueger, but can I just say, I'm enjoying the slow, incremental death of Keir Starmer even more than I did.
I'll tell you what, Matt. I think it might stop being so slow and start getting quite quick.
That's good. That's good. As long as he suffers a little bit before the end. That's, you know, I've sort of told Peter Cardwell a couple of years ago he was the most shocking and most useless politician we've ever seen in our lifetime. And
yeah, but you understated it, right?
I think I've understated it then. I think he was gutless, spineless.
Oh, he's
useless.
hopeless. He's hopeless. And his mess should never have given Mandelson that job, very important job. Should never have given it to him. And because he did, Mandelson's had to quit, or he's got fired. Mandelson refused to resign, for God's sake. He got fired, and now President Trump's state visit is doomed to be 48 hours of continuous embarrassment, because every time they sit down with the media, the only questions are going to be about Epstein, Mandelson and Keir Starmer's shocking handling of all these sagas. It's ridiculous. But you want to talk about Danny Krueger, Matt? What would you like to say?
Yeah, I think there were only a handful of remaining Conservatives left that I actually respected. Probably a couple of older people like Edward Lee and stuff like that, and Jenrick and Krueger. And I think this is a triumph of reform. I think Krueger is principled, decent and intelligent.
I totally agree, Matt. You're on the money here.
And I think the great Peter Hitchin of talkTV said that the Conservative Party needs to die before the British people ever get what they voted for ever again.
That's a good point. I should actually say Peter Hitchin of the Mail on Sunday, although he's always an honoured guest on Talk. But yeah, I absolutely take your point. Trevor Kavanagh, the brilliant veteran former political editor of The Sun, who's seen governments come and go since the 1970s, he told me that this was the worst government he's seen by a country mile, and that Danny Krueger's defection from the Tories to Reform UK is incredibly significant and may precipitate more defections, more senior defections. I think it's possible, you don't want to overstate this, because our political scene, Matt, is very conservative with a small c, but it is possible we are witnessing the death of the Tory party.
I think we've had a horrific 10 years since Brexit, mainly caused by outright traitors in the civil service, the judiciary, the two main parties. I think in the near future we're going to get the Brucey bonus of seeing both the main parties obliterated before our very eyes. Great days are ahead, and I think faith in politics will be restored when reform actually... I think that I'm going for 45% at the next election.
Well, I think I'll tell you this. A lot of people on the right, what I've always said about Reform UK, I've said this earlier in the show, is what they've done is harness the sentiments and the worldview and the political opinions of what used to be the Conservative Party. They are the new Conservative Party, because the Conservative Party, the Tories, have decided to abrogate everything they ever stood for. And they've decided for some reason, or they did decide for some reason, to turn themselves into a sort of Lib Dem lefty lot who you couldn't really distinguish from the Labour Party. And that was a disaster. So, yeah, I think that the forces of the right, there's a momentum going on here, and the forces of the right. And when I say right, I don't mean extreme right, I don't mean far right, I mean people who are right of centre are all gravitating Nigel Farage's way. Something is happening here, Matt. Matt, I've got to move on, though. Brilliant call, as always. Thank you very much, mate. Matt in Cheshire. Let's go straight to Karen in Newcastle. Hello, Karen.
Evening, Kevin. I'm going to actually agree with you what you said earlier. You were spot on about it not being Tommy Robinson's protest. It was for the whole of the UK, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Yeah. It was a coming together. It was a convergence of different political factions, but mainly it was just people. It was just people from all over the country who came together to tell this government, you're not doing what you said you were going to do when we voted for you, when we elected you. You're lying to us. You don't listen to us. It was an explosion, I think, of despair and fury, but ironically, it was a very joyous affair. It was a big party atmosphere there.
But I wanted to know, where was the Reform Party on this?
Well, they won't go because they will not associate themselves with Tommy Robinson.
Well, it shouldn't matter if you're a supporter of Tommy Robinson or if you're a supporter of Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. This was all about the British people, our country, and they should knock their heads together and they should come together for this country. It's for this, our people,
Karen, you're making a good point, but it won't happen. It won't happen. Nigel Farage and Reform will continue to completely distance themselves from anything to do with Tommy Robinson. But as you said, Karen,
after the crowd,
but it wasn't. It wasn't. Look, it wasn't a Tommy Robinson event on Saturday. He was an important part of it, but it was a coming together of people who are disillusioned and disaffected with this awful government. Karen, good call. Thank you very much. I've got to move on. Karen in Newcastle there, and I think we've got time to talk to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris. You want to talk about migrant flights? Please do, because no one else has.
Well, the cancelled one already. We don't know how many lawyers were involved in cancelling that.
What's the latest? Did they get anybody off the ground?
No, cancelled.
Are you kidding me?
No, and don't forget the French air controllers are on strike from tomorrow. So it's just really stuck.
See, because I came on air and we checked, and I've been checking, all evening, and of course they were telling us all over the weekend. Oh yeah, Monday. There'll be the first flights, the first deportations under the one in, one out scheme. But you're telling me that nothing's happened.
That's cancelled. I've got to get this out to you, right? Because this is going to blow your mind.
All right, Chris.
If you remember the last time I spoke to you, you had Peter Barnes in with you.
Oh yeah, but on Friday, yep.
Yeah, right. Now, he told us about the Boris wave, right? Now, I've done the figures.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Boris wave. Well, I told you about that. Isabel Oakeshott brought that one in, but we were discussing it on Friday. Yeah. Go on.
This is going to blow your mind. It's 3.4 million over the next 3 years.
3.8 million.
Oh, Jesus! I'm not going to redo this.
400,000 over the next year. 3.8 million, I think, over the next 3 years or something like that.
Well, these figures are on 3.4, right?
Yeah.
3.4. All right. So if half of them apply, and most will get indefinite leave to remain.
Indefinite leave to remain, and then we've got a benefits welfare catastrophe. Absolutely know all about that, Chris, but you're quite right to highlight it. I've got to go now, though, mate. The show is ending. Give me a call tomorrow. Chris in Epsom there. Well, that wraps up this show for tonight. It's been a brilliant show. It's always good to have your company. I hope you found mine vaguely tolerable. Tomorrow I will be back with another edition of the Political Asylum. That will be at 7 p.m. as always. I expect you to be there. In the meantime, stay tuned for the very first edition of Harry Cole Saves the West. Don't miss it.
I never wanted to carry a gun. I did carry a gun for a little while, but I didn't really want to do it routinely, and I didn't want my officers to carry it routinely because I never actually felt that the risk was so great that they needed to do that.